All right, guys, welcome back. What an amazing card! What an awesome event! I think the Sphere show really delivered. Um, Merab is the new champion. Valentina is the new champion. A night full of pretty awesome, fights. The main card, all decisions. There was some really good contests scattered in there as well. Let's jump straight into that main event. Merab Dvalishvili is your new bantamweight champion. And he did it in pretty dominating fashion. I think the scorecards were 48-47 on two of them, 49-46 on the other scorecard. And that doesn't really tell the story of the fight. As soon as the fifth round ended, there was no question about the winner. Throughout the whole fight, really. It was actually really interesting. Merab was able to take a couple rounds off. He took the fifth round off, and there was another one earlier where I believe it was the fourth round, the third round even. O'Malley looked tired and flat. The threat of the takedown in MMA for a specialist striker really nullifies the game. You've seen that with Adesanya in his last fight against Dricus du Plessis. There's just a flatness. O'Malley, especially after the first round, his bounce and his footwork was almost completely gone, and that's what separates him from the rest of that division in terms of his striking on the feet. Merab did a really good job of not just following him, but feinting and using his strikes to then get him where he wanted to shoot the takedowns. And once he'd had success on the first couple, and O'Malley had felt his strength, I think the threat of that just carried on throughout the rest of the fight, and it had a really big impact on Sean. Merab just had an incredible game plan, and he's just an absolute specimen. Between rounds, not even taking the stool, it didn't even look like he was breathing heavy. And O'Malley, you can see he was really digging deep on the other side. The biggest question for me going into the fight was how was Merab going to get close to him? And he did a really good job of finding O'Malley's feet, not following him necessarily, but tracking him down behind that black line and getting him to the fence where he was able to shoot the takedowns. And the big surprise as well for me was how worlds apart they were on the ground. O'Malley looked like he had nothing for him. And I think that really, with O'Malley being such a popular guy, it's those expectations maybe that everyone's had around him have come back down to earth a little bit, especially in a division where there are so many talented grapplers. Like you see Merab and Umar coming up. Really hard stylistic fights for a guy like O'Malley. What's next for someone like O'Malley? This is his second loss as a pro. And let's say maybe his first one that he's going to take on the chin and accept fully, because the Cheeto Vera fight, there was a lot of strange circumstances that went in around that fight. But this one, there was a clear winner. And like I said, even though the scores were close, retrospectively, the winner was clear. Merab definitely dominated that fight. So it'll be interesting to see where O'Malley goes. He sort of got catapulted up to the top. He had to fight Petr Yan, which was a really close fight, and he got through. But now there's no easy fights for O'Malley. You look at the top of that division, and it's just all killers. I'm interested to see how O'Malley can build back up. He's got a really good coach, and it'll be a really good learning lesson, I think, for him. And it's the kind of experience that'll make a fighter real. It's the kind of experience that'll make a fighter much better. And I think that'll be the case with O'Malley as well. Merab versus Umar, that has to be next, and what a fucking crazy fight that is going to be. Umar, you'd think, would have the striking advantage, got crazy kicks up there on the feet. But the wrestling between those two is what I'm really interested to see. The scrambles, the pace in that fight is going to be absolutely nuts. So really looking forward to see that one next. So yeah, what a wonderful performance by Merab. Left no questions and really shut O'Malley out. Valentina Shevchenko in the co-main event. I wouldn't say a similar performance, but the fight did also spend a lot of time on the ground, with Valentina employing a really nice game plan to secure dominating control and win every round. Win every single round. For her to have that sort of performance at that age, to reinvent, she's been a striker most of her career, but to be able to have elite grappling and elite wrestling now to the point of being able to win the championship back from the younger fighter, just shows her quality and shows her experience, her ability to adapt inside the fight game. So the main event and the co-main event were a little bit slow. The fight's playing out a lot of the time on the ground, and if you're a striking fan who wants to see action on the feet, they could have been a little bit frustrating, but that's the game. It was really interesting to see Herb Dean tell Merab to work so much as well. I really didn't understand that because he was securing the dominant positions, the fight was moving, and it's on O'Malley to make something happen when he's down. So it's really interesting as well, but I guess it just shows you that this sport is definitely geared towards the fans and entertainment as the bottom line. So yeah, Valentina dominates. Grasso is the new champion and shows her greatness, like I said, at her age. One of the greatest female fighters to ever do it. Hats off to you, Valentina Shevchenko. Let's move on to Diego Lopez. He, for me at least, he answered a lot of questions and he really showed himself to be elite at the top of the 145-pound division. Coming off the Dan Ige fight and all of the strangeness that had happened, in and around that, him getting a super short notice fight and still coming through and fighting really well against Dan Ige. But this was the fight I needed to see just to see his level. And he came through with flying colours. Not only was he hurting Ortega on the feet, almost put him out in that first round. I thought Ortega was done. The second punch looked like it completely woke him up. Bang, bang, two huge hooks. Diego Lopez showed that he's super well-rounded, even when the fight was going to the ground and Brian Ortega was spending periods of time on his back, looking for submissions and sweeps. Lopez was super safe and wasn't afraid to engage him there. Was really smart in the way that he did so as well, landing good damage, cutting Ortega open on the ground. And it just looked like Ortega was a step behind the whole fight. Lopez, I think, is here to stay. And even though he was up and coming in the UFC, hadn't fought maybe the competition that Ortega had, the guy has almost twice as many fights. And I think he's hit the point in his career where he's just put everything together. And he's a really dangerous guy. Not only is he dangerous on the feet, like you saw in the first round, but he's super dangerous on the ground. And he has got real finishing instincts. So hats off to Diego Lopez. That was an incredible performance. Where's Diego Lopez going next? I'd like to see him fight any of the top dogs at 145. I don't think there's a bad fight that you can put him into. If he's next for the belt against the winner of Holloway and Topuria, that'd be really exciting. You could even throw in there with Volks as a number one contender fight. That'd be a cracker of a fight. So yeah, I think Diego Lopez is here to stay at the top. It'd be actually cool to see him run it back with Mopsar as well. I know he's fighting Aljamain coming up. But yeah, that would be another really interesting fight. I think Lopez on a full camp with the experiences he's had since their first fight would make it really, really competitive. So only good matchups for him at the top of the division. Brian Ortega's in a really weird spot of his career, and taken a lot of damage over the years too. I know he wanted to move up to lightweight before this fight, but man, the guys at lightweight are going to hurt him, on a different sort of level. There's some heavy, heavy punches up at lightweight, and Ortega's, he doesn't really move his head too well. His boxing defense hasn't really advanced over the years, and it really shows. I think he's just a little bit of a step behind now. These young killers coming up, which happens unfortunately to everyone in this game. So yeah, Brian Ortega, I'd like to see him take a little bit of time off, just reevaluate what's next for him. And even if he's not going to fight for a belt again in his career, you're always going to get fun fights out of Brian Ortega. Always going to get a fun fight. So yeah, really interesting change of the guard at featherweight there. Diego Lopez is really promising in an absolute killer's row of the division. I reckon maybe even the fight of the year, Ribovic versus Zellhuber. What a crazy scrap that was. That third round was absolutely nuts. Zellhuber spent the first 2 rounds in a really competitive fight, but I thought managed the distance really well, was landing the cleaner shots. I thought he definitely took the first round. The second round was a real toss-up. And in that third round, Ribovic just showed his heart. For him to be on the outside, for the first 2 rounds, taking shots, and still having the will to get in there and to land that big overhand right he did in the third round, shows how game Ribovic is. And Zellhuber, his game as well, because he was out on his feet in that third round. You could not be closer to going offline. He was so close to going out. I thought they were going to jump in and stop it at any moment. Ribovic just bombing on him, absolutely bombing on him, and Zellhuber still firing back. I think that third round was easily one of the best rounds I've ever seen. Those two guys put it all out there on the line, swinging to the end, and very well deservingly got the bonus for fight of the night. I reckon you should have added a little bit of extra on that, Dana. They lit that building on fire. And I think that fight there really got people geared up for the big 2-1s at the end of the night. Ribovic moves forward in an absolute shark tank at lightweight. These two guys aren't even in the top 15, probably sitting somewhere around that top 20 range. And to show the quality that they both did, I don't think there was a real loser in this fight. They both gained so much stock. Zellhuber, even though he takes the loss via split decision, he won a lot of fans that night. And same with Ribovic. So I'm really interested to see how their careers progress. Both still really young. I think Zellhuber will only learn from this, and if he can put his game together a little bit more and use his length, fight behind that reach, and not bite down in the pocket as much, I think he's going to have a really successful career. And he's already beaten some really good guys, So is Ribovic. This was a real matchup of two prospects. Ribovic progresses and Zellhuber will have to rebuild a little, but that's the sport. That is the sport. Big Norm, 30-27. I didn't see that fight playing out like that at all. I thought Irene Aldana might have, a bit of a advantage if the fight was going to take place on the feet, but Norma Dumont proved everyone wrong in that regard. She just put the volume on her, put the pace on her, moving backwards, just teeing off on Aldana, who doesn't really move her head, just walks into shots, just zombies her way through. and you can only rely on that for so long. You see her face at the end of the third round. A great performance for Dumont, but Aldana's at the point now where, she's getting older and she's taken a lot of damage. Her face was an absolute mess. That was one of the worst cuts I've seen on a girl ever. But, she showed her heart and her resolve to still walk through all of that damage, fighting until the end, trying to win. It was a great fight. It was a great fight. It was another result for the Brazilians. Did really well tonight. The Mexicans not so much. But that is the game. Bahamondes, Bilal Muhammad's boy. Beautiful striking, fade back right hand, boom. Cleans up Torres in the first round and pretty much knocked him out twice with the exact same combo, that fade back right hand. Torres just running in, presenting that chin on a platter, asking to get KO'd. And against a guy as sharp and as technical as Bahamondes, moving backwards, and as how long he is and how he's able to get you on the end of his punches, was just a real bad matchup for Manuel Torres, who's a bit more of a brawler, grittier, and beautiful speed and timing on that shift back from Bahamondes. Even though Torres was, like I said, running forward, presenting his chin up there, asking to get KO'd. You still have to have a technician who's good enough to put the punches where they need to be. And Bahamondes did that twice. Beautiful finish for him. And performance of the night bonus. He gets 50k extra. Very well deserved. Beautiful KO. And another guy in that division, in lightweight, who's just super tall, super rangy, and is absolutely nasty with his hands and feet. Yeah, really interesting. And training with a great team. Bilal Muhammad and those guys, they'd be giving him everything he needs in his deficient, wrestling and grappling game, because the kid's a killer on the feet, but training with a team like that will be so beneficial for him to be able to put the rest of the pieces together. And you can see it. He's had a performance or two in the UFC where he looked a bit flat and a bit slow, got hit a lot, but tonight I think he showed a real improvement in his game, and super excited to see where he takes that career next, because that guy's a really good prospect. Yasmin Haraguay, another real tongue twister. She's another young up-and-coming Mexican fighter who got clubbed and subbed tonight. She came in super aggressive and was finished off pretty quickly in the first round. Ketlin Souza hits like a truck. Caught her super clean, dropped her and jumped on that back and put her out. Disappointing performance, I'm sure, for Haraguay, who's another Mexican prospect, up and coming. She's had a couple of moments in the UFC where she's gotten a bit excited and gotten caught in the first round. So she's still young, another learning experience for her. But Ketlin Souza proves in a women's division where you don't see maybe all that power and that finishing instinct come through so much. She's got it, and she's a really interesting talent in that division. Another guy I want to circle back to at flyweight, opening up the night, one of the first fights of the night, Joshua Van. This was really interesting because he was coming into the fight super short notice, coming off the first knockout loss of his career just a month ago. So he took the fight super short notice, no training camp, in a super risky spot. And the first round, it wasn't going well for him. Chairez is absolutely huge for that division and was landing big leg kicks. Pretty much immobilized that left leg of Joshua Van. And Joshua Van had to really adjust and capitalize on the boxing range and showed beautiful inside boxing. Yeah, his inside pocket boxing is one of his best strengths. When he is slipping left and right, throwing off 3, 4, 5 punch combos, body head, his speed, power, it almost reminds me almost of like a smaller Ilya Taporia. Obviously, his game isn't as well rounded, but his striking and boxing is super exciting to watch, and yeah, it really works for him. He was just in the second and third round. He just picked Chirez apart. Was able to implement good takedowns as well. Yeah, once he got the body shots going, he really hurt Chirez and almost had the fight over with. Yeah, so coming in on 3 weeks' notice, Joshua Van against a super big guy who had a lot of momentum behind him. What a performance. And he's another guy who's super young, 22 or 23, and already showing really, really good promise. So super interested to see what he can do in the flyweight division. I think he's got a really high ceiling in this sport, so I'm really looking forward to see how he develops, and he's one I'm going to keep my eye on for sure, Joshua Van. There's something about that boxing style, that inside pocket style, that is just so fun to watch. I had the Canelo fight going as well. Seeing, I don't know if you guys saw Caleb Plant versus Trevor McCumbee. Another fight where Caleb Plant sort of was up against a real awkward fighter and was getting clipped with some really weird long-range punches in the first 2 rounds, and then just absolutely adjusted. And once he found his rhythm and found his range, it's a beauty to watch. Boxing, it's an absolute beauty to watch inside boxing with a skilled technician. So yeah, Joshua Van showed awesome promise, and really looking forward to seeing him fight again. Chihuahuas, Roel Rosas Jr. continued to show improvement against a really, I would say, like a tough veteran of an opponent. The Mongolian murderer, Arichi Lang. It was another example of how once the takedowns were implemented by Rosas in that first round, how tentative and slow and flat it made Arichi Lang on the feet, because Rosas Jr., for as young as he is, he looks like a really strong kid, and was able to just bully his way through those positions on the ground, implement control. And it's cool to see him, although he didn't get the finish, for how young he is, it's really good experience for him to get 15 minutes against a tough, grizzled veteran. So Roel Rosas Jr. improves, continues to show improvements in his game, which is what you want to see from such a young guy. And I think the matchmaking is good, Don't rush him in. He's got time. He's young. That was the Sphere show. Dana said he spent 20 mil on the production. And objectively, whatever you thought about it, it was like new and exciting and brought a level of energy to the event that we don't get. Which I thought the way that they wrapped it up, the way they were able to present it, all of the sort of mystery going into the event and how excited all the commentators were getting, although it was a little bit of a gimmick, it was really fun for a one-off, and I think it's really cool to see the UFC trying new stuff in in a world where the business is quite watered down and they follow a blueprint most of the time. It was really cool to see, the ring girls change, all of the different production stuff they had, or the world's changing. What a hit. What an absolute hit. I'm looking forward to going back and dissecting a little bit more of just how Merab was able to shut down O'Malley. And I'll have like another little breakdown going over some more of the ins and outs of that performance. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for joining me on the breakdown. And I look forward to talking again soon.